So, this is day 2 of discussing the 3 ongoing audiobook series that I have here on Geekanomicon. Today we're going to be talking about Rocket Pie. And Rocket Pie originally was slated to be the first book in this whole thing. But through discussions, Freya Kane obviously became the star and what I needed to push forward. But I've never lost my love for Rocket Pie. Now, Rocket Pie is not the original Rocket Pie. If you've already tuned in, you know that the original Rocket Pie has been replaced. The original Rocket Pie seemingly betrayed her own group and caused her own mother's downfall. That's kind of odd. And nobody actually, the only witness to these events was Nim. And you're not going to know much about Nim at first, other than that she's parading around as Rocket Pie. Now, for that, that will be unveiled probably about halfway through the 25-issue arc. But for now, it's going to remain enshrouded in mystery. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to be fooled by what's going on with her, but she doesn't believe what she saw with her own eyes. She felt like something was off, and she even discussed as such with Rocket Pie's father and husband of her Rocket Pie's ill-fated mom. And in doing so, they came up with this plan, and only 2 people know that Nim is not the real Rocket Pie, and that's the father and best friend of Rocket, that is Pacific Misfit. And Pacific Misfit you'll encounter a little bit here, but she has her own story to tell down the road. Where Rocket Pie is concerned, at least this one, I can't reveal too much about her power set because, believe it or not, most of what she's doing is smoke and mirrors. She has a suit of power armor. The original Rocket Pie did not have power armor. She's a phoenix, and she utilized her abilities. She utilized everything through her powers as a phoenix. And for Nim, it's going to be a lot more difficult. I will say she is not a phoenix under that armor. The armor is complementing a lot of what's going on. It has a lot of illusory effects and effects that mimic what the original Rocket Pie could do. As for what she's doing, she's actually trying to uncover the real events of what happened that night. And this is 5 years after it originally happened. So it's been a while, and these events are happening concurrent with what's going on in Freya Kane. So keep that in mind. These 3 stories all happen pretty much at the same time, and there might be some intersections as they go through. But other than that, Nim steps onto the world intent on finding the group that Rocket had abandoned, and the group assumed she'd just left for 5 years because she was depressed over her mom's death. They didn't know what Nim had seen. And when she finds the group is already pretty much exactly on the spot where she arrives, which is kind of odd, but the fates have a way on this world of making things work out, especially towards heroes getting an eye to where they need to go. They don't necessarily help out, but they do put things on the right path. And the first person she encounters is her replacement, and I'll get to her in a little bit. I want to talk about the other 2 first. That being Buckstop, who really liked his friendship with Rocket Pie. He is actually the one that picked up the reins and decided to become the leader of their little group. And unfortunately, he doesn't really like being the leader. He is what I call an urban knight, which is my nod to the street samurai, but there's some differences. He doesn't actually use a sword. He actually just uses a shield, kind of like Captain America, but his shield isn't round like Cap's. It actually looks like a shield. It has some special qualities to it, which we'll address as they come up. But he is also a satyr, and he has phenomenal speed on his side, and he's refined that speed to be a weapon. And my satyrs don't have that much humanoid qualities other than they have a bare upper torso, but their heads are kind of different. He has an elkish head with curved horns, kind of like an elk. But other than that, yeah, Buckstop doesn't like being the leader, but he has taken on the responsibilities and actually does what he needs to do to keep the group together. Moving on to the other remaining member of the group is Jump Saber. Now, Jump Saber is, you might think that she jumps around. She is part cat, so I will say this. She's my introduction to, there's a druid wandering around this universe that has taken animals and given them bipedal forms. And he did so, he actually broke one of the cardinal rules, but didn't break a cardinal rule. He brought some species forward in time to prevent them from being extinct. One such race were the saber-toothed tigers, and she is a saber-toothed tiger, bipedal saber-toothed tiger. She's an expert martial artist and a shaman who can communicate with the dead in an area and actually utilize some of the abilities of those wandering spirits in an area, which sometimes works out pretty well. When she really doesn't have something that she can utilize, she relies on her martial arts, which she's a pacifist. She doesn't like fighting, but she will if she has to, and she prefers to disarm and put down and get the conflict over as soon as possible. That brings us to our last member of the support cast, which is Pumpkin Havoc. And there's a reason I left her for last, because a lot of people are going to look at the description and go, oh, she's wearing a mini dress. Well, Geek, you said you don't have any characters that wear skimpy outfits. Well, she technically doesn't. And that's why she has a long-ass description right there. She's pretty much cloaked from head to toe. She doesn't like people knowing what she is. She has red hair. That's about all you know. She is human. She is a witch. She's called Pumpkin Havoc, but does not use pumpkins as a weapon. It's just her facial. Her mask is kind of like an answer to, what's his name from Watchmen, where the mask morphs. And it's actually really cool idea in my head that that's how people see her talk. And she actually has a little bit of a fan following, as you'll see. And she was a fan of the original Rocket Pie. She is the one member of the group when she encounters, she's the first person that meets Nim when she comes in parading around as Rocket Pie, and she also goes, something doesn't smell right. And that is a big hint towards where it goes with Nim. But I'm not going to not going to give a full-on reveal on what Nim is until the moment arrives. But Pumpkin Havoc will be a big influencer on how Nim reacts to the group and goes in. She actually will use Pumpkin as a little bit of a way to get into the group's good graces again, by coming in and going, okay, normally someone would go, oh, you're my replacement. Nah, I'm kind of jealous. And no, Nim doesn't have that jealousy. So she's going to step in and goes, oh, I've got an idea. I'm actually going to give her some nods and say, I'm not coming back. You'll see. She's got this whole, Nim is very good at coming up with plans on the fly, and she immediately gets an idea where Pumpkin is concerned. And there's a little bit more to that story with those two, but we'll address that as the story unfolds. Suffice it to say, I have big plans for Pumpkin and Nim, and you'll have to wait and see what those are. Anyway, guys, that's a very close look at what's going on with Rocket Pie. I hope you guys enjoy the series as much as I have enjoyed coming up with these characters. Again, it was originally slated to be the first book in the whole thing, but it got pushed a little bit to the side because Hurricane became such a huge thing. And I hope you guys enjoy it, and I will see you guys in the near future.